PBKC is your entertainment destination for poker, table games, OTB, Paddock live events, and exceptional eats. The Paddock Restaurant is perfect for meetings, corporate functions, parties, fundraising, and more. Call 561-683-2222 extension 199 and book your next event today. The Big Game Party is back in the Paddock Restaurant on February 8th with a $45 all-you-can-eat buffet, beer bucket specials with over 140 HD TVs and 3 huge screens. This is how the big game was meant to be. For more information, go to pbkennelclub.com.
Good Wednesday morning to all of you watching right here at PBKC. It's PBKC PICKS, broadcasted live from the Palm Beach Kennel Club. My name is Mike Jameson. To my right, the president of PBKC, Mr. Pat Rooney.
What's happening, Mike? Kind of boring weekend.
Nothing going on.
We'll have to figure it out. We'll figure out what we need to
we'll
talk
make
about.
something of the show. Right behind Pat is Earnest Christian, longtime poker dealer, longtime podcaster. What's up, Ernest?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. You got a lot to talk about, too, I'm sure.
Not playoff football. I mean,
my team
was done in September.
Well, you haven't been able to talk about that in a long time.
Exactly.
Right behind me is Noah Carbone, leader of the poker room. He's also an assistant general manager.
It's good to have the whole squad back. It's been a few weeks with the holidays and everybody had stuff going on, but it's good to have the whole squad, and particularly good for me and Pat.
And on Wednesday, too.
Like right
well,
now.
For this week,
For this week, and maybe, yeah.
So we're going to talk about all the happenings here at PBKC. You just saw a little commercial for the big game party. No matter who's in the big game, right now, honestly, I don't think anybody could tell you who's going to be in the big game. But the party is right here at the Paddock, February 8th. It's a bucket of beer special, or you get a bucket of beer free with $25 or more bet placed day of at PBKC with the Hard Rock Bet app. It's a $45 all-you-can-eat buffet, and there's no better deal in all of South Florida with over 140 HD TVs, 3 huge screens. It's the big game party at the Paddock, February 8th. And looking at our CBS Sports Pick'em contest for the regular season, we had an overall winner of Tony Sardinas with 144 wins on the season. Congrats to Tony. And week 18, we had a win from Ashley Gear. I'll be contacting both of you. And within the next week or two, we're going to pick the 9 names that are going to play in that poker tournament that we're going to have broadcasting live streaming for a chance to win a 100K seat for the February 100K. So that should be very, very interesting, and we look forward to that. So stay tuned if you're one of our weekly winners for that. But let's get right into the NFL news. I was going to talk about something else first, but because there's been so many huge firings in the NFL, let's talk about them. Let me run down the list of firings. Wow. The big one came out early last night. Baltimore Ravens fired John Harbaugh after 18 seasons. Okay, not huge surprise. Arizona Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon. The Raiders got rid of Pete Carroll. I think there's more involved in that. Kevin Stefanski, after 6 seasons, is gone in the Browns. And then Raheem Morris and the GM, Terry Fontenot, both got canned from the Atlanta Falcons. Are we really surprised on any of these, Pat?
You know, I know Harbaugh's obviously the big one, but I'm not surprised there just because I think the fan base in Baltimore is similar to the fan base in Pittsburgh, is that Harbaugh had a high standard set for the Ravens. He's had really good teams, especially with Lamar Jackson lately, and the fan base there, I feel like just didn't feel like he got over the hump and got to the Super Bowl, or let alone even just win it. But I'm not completely shocked there. I think it's the same type of feeling like, yeah, you want to go through the argument like it's not the Giants or the Jets or anything like that. They were very consistent winners, but they didn't attain Super Bowls, and that became Baltimore's standard. I think over the last 20 or so years. So that one doesn't actually surprise me. The things I read was it was completely the owner's decision. Like the other GMs and people involved with the organization and the players did not want him to get fired. And there was a report that Lamar had an issue with him, and that was disputed too. They said Lamar had an issue with the offensive coordinator Monken, not the head coach. So this was solely the things I read, Steve Bisciotti's decision to get rid of him. And I'm not completely shocked at that one. I think if they would have won the game, much like with Tomlin, I think Harbaugh would have kept coaching at least another year there. Yeah. The one that actually does surprise me to a small extent is Raheem Morris. Yep. If you think about it, yeah, I know he's been there for 3 years or whatever it is, but the Falcons have been in the mix. They're not a superstar team. They don't have the players. But I think Morris has kept them somewhat relevant, and only giving a guy 3 years, and they tied for the division lead this year. Believe it or not, they were eliminated December 8th, I think, and they tied for the lead in the division. So I think they could have given him another year or two just to see what he could have done. Those other guys, Pete Carroll is 100. The Cardinals are just they're just one of those malaise teams that just can't seem to get anything right. So I don't know. You could bring back Bill Parcells in younger days, and I think you'd have trouble getting that team en route. The Browns is another one, a little bit surprising, only because Stefanski has won Coach of the Year twice, and they gave him the boot. Again, you got a young quarterback there. I'm assuming they're going to stick with Shador. If they do, and Stefanski's supposed to be really good with quarterbacks. Why are you going to give him the boot now? But again, the record speaks for itself. So none of those really shock me. The Falcons one surprised me a little bit. But again, this is what organizations do that don't have long-term winning track records. Yeah, they just keep churning guys over and over until I hope they hit somebody. Sometimes that works, but most of the time, I think you need to give guys legitimately 5 years. I think they need to get in, number one, the first 2 years are just getting used to who's there, what their personnel is, who their assistant coaches are going to be, all that kind of stuff. And then you got to give them a couple years after that to get their guys in there and to start formulating what their schemes are going to be and that kind of stuff and fill those players with that would match those types of schemes. So if you're not going to give a guy at least 5 years, I think you're just going to constantly be on this wheel of fortune of, all right, we're going to pick this guy, we're going to pick that guy, and you're just not going to have success. So in a nutshell, that none of them really shock me, but I think Morris at least should have had a little bit more time.
Yeah, Morris, I think he got 2 years, actually, if I'm not mistaken, as coach. We got fired. But then I realized that they gutted the entire front office, not just him. So it's an entire rebuild from the top down. The Raiders, so this is weird. I'm surprised they fired him. I thought he would have quit, actually, because how bad things were. I thought he would have quit, honestly. The fact he got fired and the next day said, there's something there.
He can't fire me, I quit.
Right. The Browns were stupid. I expect them to do Browns things, of course. Stefanski I think is a great coach. I also think he probably tanked that job this year to get out of there, honestly. That's my opinion, personally. I know it's conspiracy theory, all that. I get it. The Cardinals are the Cardinals. They do this every 2 years, recycle coaches. I feel like they've had 6 coaches in this whole decade. Something like that. The Harbaugh thing. It's, I guess, not too shocking because you hear the reports about him and Lamar and some friction. So I'm less surprised about Harbaugh. But, sometimes change has to happen. And I compare it to what happened to Andy Reid in 2012 with the Eagles. They went 4-12. He gets fired. He goes to the Chiefs, and you see how that history played out there. I think with Harbaugh, the same thing. I think Harbaugh, as critical as I've been on this show, certainly on my podcast, I've been very critical of Harbaugh especially the last 3 years. He's still a top-tier coach. If you ask right now, give me your top 10 coaches in the league right now, even today, January 7th. He's still in the top 10. I just think sometimes things get stale. I think it also applies to a lesser extent with the Steelers, with Mike Tomlin. But, I think Harbaugh will have a job within the next 2 days if he wanted to. So I'm not even concerned about his future. But, yeah, some of these names are not too shocking, honestly. I guess the results and all that, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And you mentioned the Andy Reid thing. That one was a little bit of an outlier because he had that tragedy with his son in Philly. And I think that played into it where Andy Reid actually needed to change his scenery. The Harbaugh one, it reminds me of coaching days. And as a youth coach, you would change your team every year. So you could use the same one-liners and the same hype messages. But I think, you're 18 or 15 years in with the same, same management and the same group and a lot of the same players. And you start running out of sayings or inspirational quotes, and I think that kind of falls where Harbaugh fell into. And I think Tomlin, he would have been. This would have been might have been role reversal here if they lost that game. He was in the same boat. But again, then you start looking at the roster of okay, what coaches are available. Now you fired, obviously, the best coach available now. You fired him, and now somebody's going to pick him up. So what did you actually do? With these other teams, when we go to the other teams, if we pull that up, so we got the Browns, Raiders, Cardinals, and Falcons. This is a larger problem. This has, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the coaches. This is cultural problems within the organizations. When you look at, there's no shocks there. Browns, Raiders, Cardinals, Falcons. You could add a couple other teams to that list where they're in this cycle where they can't get out of their own way. That's a cultural thing, and you have to – I think teams with strong general managers don't fall into these cycles long term like these teams are. If you look at Philly, Peterson wins the Super Bowl. He has a bad year the next year. They fire him, and they bounce back and are able to recover and be competitive again because of the culture in Philadelphia. So when you have a winning culture, it perpetuates. When you have a losing culture or culture that people can't understand what your direction is, and it seems like it should be a lot simpler than this from either ownership or the general manager, that they should be able to provide direction and lay out a standard for what they want and what they want their football to look like. And I don't think these teams have definition, and that's why we have this coaching carousel.
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to ask to Pat is if Tyler Loop makes that kick, are we talking right now about the possibility of Tomlin being gone?
Yeah, I think you would have been. I mean, again, it's a very similar situation to Harbaugh. In fact, Harbaugh won the Super Bowl more recently than Tomlin did and has got to the AFC Championship much more than Tomlin did. Now, again, Harbaugh's had better players, I think, since Big Ben retired. We've been on this coaching or quarterback carousel where, we can't pick the right guy to lead this team from a quarterback standpoint. And part of that's on Tomlin. So I think Tomlin would have been in some kind of difficulty if they would have lost that game. I'm not sure if it would have been a firing. It might have been we've come to a mutual understanding, and Tomlin goes and does TV for a year and then ends up somewhere else. But I absolutely that would have been listen, the fans in Pittsburgh, just a few weeks ago after the Buffalo game, they were yelling to fire Tomlin in the stand. So no matter what you feel as ownership or as the general manager or whatever, when the fans start, revolting against somebody, it's hard to just say, well, we're going to ignore them. They're the ones that, that pay for the seats and pay the salaries and all that other stuff. So I'm sure that would have factored into it. Again, it's obviously speculation, but I would have imagined that something would have been going on this week. I don't think let's put it this way, Mike. It wouldn't have been business as usual. It wouldn't have been, yep, we're going with coach, and that's it. That's our statement. I think something would have been done this week, whatever that is. I don't exactly know, but I don't think it would have been a firing, but it would have been maybe some kind of a, we mutually agreed to, part ways or whatever. But, you talk about it, Earnest and Noah. John Madden said it. John Madden only coached 10 years. He said after 10 years, you're the motivation, the speeches, all that, it's just the same thing. I mean, it just – I'm not going to even try to equate this to coaching. I taught for 3 years. I taught college for 3 years. Oh. And after about the second year, I'm saying the same thing every day. I'm saying the same thing. Now, it's a different group of kids, but I'm like, this is getting boring. Like, how do I stay motivated? I don't understand how coaches that are in this for 10-plus years, how they feel like, I'm going to give up. I'm going to get up there and give them the speech of, we've got to be resilient. You guys have to stick together. We're going to. I'm like, at some point, you're just like, I'm saying the exact same thing over and over again. I need as a coach something new, some new environment, to motivate myself. So I just think that's human nature. It's just a natural thing to be, wanting to move somewhere else at some point and to hope that there's some different results. So I don't know. It's very odd to me that guys want to coach more than 10 years at one place.
Makes you appreciate Bill Belichick, I guess, a little bit, and guys like Eric Spoelstra and those their teams for being there as long as they have and still finding ways to stay relevant and finding ways to keep the team motivated. I do think, if anything, Mike Tomlin, had they lost the game on Sunday, he might have probably gotten one more reprieve, but definitely a very hot seat going into next year. I think it's hard because I was talking to John Bunner before we came on the air, and he's a Steelers fan, and he's one of those Tomlin, fire guys, and I get it. I'm not knocking you guys about that.
Is he back on?
He's still a fire Tomlin. He's still a fire. The thing is though, it's hard because like with Harbaugh, he's had a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the league for the last couple of years now. Whereas Mike Tomlin, post Big Ben, has had the corpse of Russell Wilson. Justice Fields stinks, obviously. Mason Rudolph, and of course Aaron
Mitch
Rodgers.
Trubisky.
Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, yeah.
And somehow, some way, in the toughest division in the last 15, 20 years, he's winning 19 games a year. That has to count for something. I get the frustration. I'm not saying it's wrong. But again, I piece you guys, Steelers fans. I'm a Giants fan, okay? We're doing the same thing here right now currently. I hate it, okay? I hate it. So, I mean, I'd rather be where you're at, being in a conversation, trying to get somewhere, than being in the bottom feeder and the season's ending by Labor Day.
Yeah, I just appreciate Mike Tomlin not getting fired because I know Sirianni, he's very animated, and Mike Tomlin at the end of that game where he's pounding his chest and then blowing a kiss to that. Yeah,
that's a bummer, by the way.
That's a new standard. That's a new standard for a coach level of hype, and yeah, that takes a little pressure off the guy in Eastern Pennsylvania there. And then Earnest has one of his minions there calling for Harbaugh to go to the Giants. This is obviously a new viewer with a Dart fan.
To be honest with you, yes, I'll take Harbaugh, but I really want.
You would take Harbaugh
in
the second.
No, I would, but honestly,
what team wouldn't take Harbaugh?
Honestly, I'm not lying. I really want Stefanski. I really do.
Yeah.
I've been saying for 2 months, I want that guy.
Harbaugh can have any job he wants.
Absolutely.
Right now. He can have any job.
Yep. Exactly. So we're going to talk about the Steelers' big win to secure the AFC North, beating the Ravens in Pittsburgh right now. How are they feeling about this week's game?
I don't know. I mean, it's an odd feeling because, again, I think there's a fairly large portion of the fan base that probably didn't want them to win that game, as weird as that sounds, because they want change. Now they're going into the playoffs, and there's, unlike past years, unlike the past 6 or 7 times we made the playoffs where we really didn't have much of a chance to win that game. They were on the road. They were against the Chiefs or the Bills or the Ravens, and those teams were clearly better. The Texans are a very good team. Don't get me wrong. They're favored in this game. Mm-hmm. But this game's at home. It's on a Monday night. And, again, I know we've talked about the Monday night. Steelers haven't lost since 1991 at home on a Monday night. But there is, I think, a genuine sense of, all right, maybe this is going to be different. Maybe there's some magic going on. If you look at, like we talked about, the last, not the Cleveland game, but the last 4 games of this year, weird stuff is happening. Isaiah Likely catches a ball that's clearly a touchdown, and it's not a touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell falls on his ass, and the ball hits him in the hand, and he catches it against Detroit. There's weird stuff going on with the Steelers, and that kind of stuff can keep going on into the playoffs. So in the Raven game itself, there were at least 3 or 4 calls that I saw, and I'm a fan of the Steelers, that clearly should have went against the Steelers, and they didn't. And I'm like, what is going on here? We had an offensive lineman 30 yards down the field on a play, I think to Freiermuth, that ended up getting a needed first down. I'm like, he is clearly beyond the line of scrimmage. There was a hold on our on Lamar Jackson on their center when he ran. They were up 10-3 at the time, and he ran to like our 20-yard line. It was going to be at least a field goal and go up 13-3, and they called holding on the line, and they showed it again. I'm like, he's not holding. I'm like, we don't get those calls ever. I've watched this team for my whole life, so something weird is going on. So with that said, again, those are sources higher than me in life. I wouldn't put it by them at all if they win this game. I just wouldn't. I think Houston is a better team, but they're not clearly better like some of these other teams that the Steelers have had to play in the playoffs. So it absolutely could happen. But if you watch that game Sunday night, as sort of an impartial observer, which I'm not, but you'd have to. That kid hasn't missed a kick like that the whole year. And again, it's pressure and it's for all the marbles and all that, and I get that. Our guy misses an extra point. He hasn't missed I think that's the first extra point he's missed in 90 attempts. Weird stuff is happening. So. Yes. Either the Steelers are going to embrace that and it's going to continue, and who knows, maybe they make a run to the Super Bowl with a 42-year-old quarterback, or this is going to end very quickly, and the Texans are just going to maul the Steelers and it's going to be over. But I don't know. I've watched them. I've watched football my whole life, and you see teams get on weird runs, and it's unexplainable. The Giants did the one year, they were 9-7, shouldn't have been probably even in the playoffs, and they won the Super Bowl that year. So things can happen when you're in playoffs, and that's maybe the Steelers are hoping for that.
It's the ghost of Three Rivers, I guess what it is. I don't know. But like I said, we are sitting as we speak right now in a wide open AFC. If you tell me right now that Steelers in Santa Clara in February, it would not shock me because of what Pat just said. Things are weird happening. The AFC, look, the Broncos number 1 seed, but come on, let's be real. They're beatable. Every team in the AFC right now is beatable. So it wouldn't shock me if the Steelers run the table here for next 3 weeks here. I'm just saying. I'm not going to call it, but it would have shocked me there in Santa Clara. No.
Wow. Yeah, that's a strong. So I saw something on TV where a priest actually goes out and blesses the field.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Is that every game or whatever? So I don't know. Like, if it's only weird if it doesn't work, right? I mean, so whatever you're doing in Pittsburgh, keep it going. But yeah, some of those. But you're watching. It was amazing. I remember one play where Lamar throws it, and it should have been intercepted or tipped away. I don't know how the ball got through there, and the Ravens catch it, and they're able to convert and pull ahead. I don't know how when Pittsburgh fell behind by a full touchdown, and they answered, and then they fall behind right away by another touchdown and answer right again. I was like, what is this team? Because I hadn't seen explosiveness from them all season like that. I didn't think they could answer twice like that, and that was pretty amazing. And I know that Baltimore had a couple players knocked out in the secondary, and that might have affected things, but yeah, when you start winning, you find ways to win, whether it's the Eagles blocking an extra point or, double doinks or whatever happens, weird stuff happens. When that starts happening, you don't want to say there's trends there, but people start seeing things differently where you're like, well, Pittsburgh always pulls it out or they eke these things out. And Kansas City made a living off of that for years where they were just able to make that one play and weird stuff happen and things just break their way. And there is variance in this game, and sometimes you just run good, and maybe Pittsburgh's just running good. Houston has a great defense, and they're going to have to find a way to score some points against them. But being at home, and the Renegade thing and all that, that should help.
Yeah. So Ernest mentioned the Broncos a little bit earlier. So the Broncos are the top seed in the AFC, Seahawks in the NFC. In what world did we think Bo Nix and Sam Darnold would lead their teams in this season to the top of their division?
God, that's why I give the Steelers, like Ernest saying, a legitimate shot. I give all these teams, except probably Carolina, I give all of them a legitimate shot to make the Super Bowl because these two teams are your top seeds. Seahawks are very good. They're an excellent team. They went in and they spanked the 49ers, held them to 3 points after they've been on a tear scoring 30-plus points for the last 6 games or whatever it is. So that's a legitimate team. But we've got Sam Darnold, who has showed that he has not played well in the playoffs. So they're going to have to overcome that. That's a biggie. When your quarterback hasn't played well in the playoffs, that's a big thing to overcome. In the AFC, absolutely. The Broncos are a very good team. They've eked out a lot of close games this year. Bo Nix looks like he's an up-and-coming player, but we have not seen Bo Nix in the playoffs. So that's a biggie. When you're faced with a different type of pressure than you've ever faced before, that's when the cream rises to the top. That's when the guys that are like have that mental ability to compartmentalize and say, I don't give a crap what's going on around me. I'm focused. That's where Tom Brady was so good. He wasn't the best physically of quarterbacks, but he was able to get himself in that moment and figure out what he needed to do and who he needed to throw to and that kind of stuff. And that's why, the Patriots won so many games because he was unbelievable in that. Joe Montana was the same way. In that arena, he was able to block out all the other crap and do what he needed to do. I don't know if Bo Nix is going to be able to do that. We're going to find out. But these two top seeds are probably the weakest two top seeds in NFL playoff history in terms of we don't have any idea what they're going to do when somebody has to play them. They could dominate. They could be really good. They could be all focused and march right to the Super Bowl, and these two teams could meet in the Super Bowl. But if you told me they got beat right off the bat in the first round, that wouldn't shock me at all either.
I'll give Sam Darnold a little more credit, though, in a sense that last year it really started Week 18 against Detroit when he was in Minnesota against Detroit. Same scenario, deja vu. You win the game against Detroit, you're number 1 seed in the NFC. He had a horrible game against the Lions and that Sunday game, and then parlayed to another horrible game against the Rams the week after, a wildcard game. He at least got over that hump this week, winning in San Francisco with the same scenario. So yeah, I'll give him that much credit and a much better defense on top of that too. And to boot, here's one thing, because in each conference, pretty much, it's razor thin between who's better and compare all these teams. Something as stupid as home field advantage might be enough to get you to a Super Bowl. And Seattle is one of those teams in the probably top 3 teams in the league that has a significant home field advantage compared to anybody else. So if anything, that's the one thing Seattle has going for them is that home field advantage. As for Denver, same thing too. The home field advantage is helping them a little bit as well. But they're a little more inconsistent, mostly on offense. like you've seen Bo Nix play well in stretches here and there, a quarter here and there. He's had 1 or 2 games this year. It was like, oh, now I get it. But you haven't seen the entire Bo Nix experience in the way you should. And you're shot like, how's this team number 1 seed in the AFC? I don't get that. We're going to find out. I mean, he has a playoff game under his belt from last year against Buffalo, which he played horrible against Buffalo. But to Pat, to your point, this is probably on paper the 2 worst number 1 seeds we've probably seen in generations.
Yeah, you segued nice for me, Ernest, because I was going to talk a little bit about home field advantage in the playoffs. So I want to get your guys I'm going to ask you guys a question real quick. What do you think currently in the past 8 seasons, home field advantage in the NFL has been as a win rate? If you guys want to give a guess.
Probably a little lower
in the
now.
playoffs?
Percentage?
Let's start with the regular season. What percentage home field advantage? Give me
percentage.
Yeah, percentage. Home field win the game.
60%.
Yeah, I was going to say 60.
62%.
All right. It's falling and it's trending
Right.
downward. It's at 53% right now. Home field
Right.
advantage.
Okay.
Think about that. Okay, so then we get into the playoffs, all right? And there's different rounds in the playoffs because obviously you have different matchups. So when you talk about seeding and where you want to be, Pat mentioned these teams could lose right out of the gate. They can. Home field advantage in the wild card round. So, okay, this isn't the wild card round. I get it. But in the wild card round, 53%. That's it. And this is over the past 10 years, okay? 53%. The second round, it goes up to 63%. So then you start getting that little bit of jump. So, the Broncos and Seahawks put themselves in a position to have a better position. They're a better team. It's more consistent or whatever. The big one is this. The conference championship game is 72%. So, you remember Philadelphia got lucky last year where they were the 2 seed, and then they fell basically into the 1 seed, hosting the conference championship game and going on a Super Bowl and winning. So that seeding matters as we go on. So, yeah, you're going to get basically a 10% jump right out of the gate by taking this number 1 seed, which is important. And I don't know if we're going to talk about the seeding with the Eagles and what they did and how that matters.
Let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it right now.
Yeah, we can. Okay, so everybody wants to talk rest of the starters, the seeding. The Eagles needed 2 things to happen. The Eagles needed the Bears, the Bears to lose, and then they needed to win their game, okay? So we played Washington, who had nothing to play for, and they should have essentially been tanking for a seed. They
Josh
didn't.
Johnson.
They went on and won that game. Philadelphia rested a lot of their starters, some guys that were banged up, and then the other thing happens, we could have had the number 2 seed, okay? We could have won that game either way. We didn't win that game, and half the people are divided. Should you rest the starters or whatever? It's essentially a bye week. So you get into these percentages, at 53%, in a wild card, you get that home. We were going to have that anyway. That's good. It's going to come up in the conference championship game, and that's where it gets dicey. But like Pat said, these things are setting up where Seattle, they got to play 2 games to get there, until you get to the conference championship game.
They have to play 1 game.
1 game. Okay, yeah. So they win their game, and then you're in the conference championship.
Right.
But they have a game where they're playing against probably the 4 seed, maybe something a little bit lower, so they could actually lose that game, and maybe Philadelphia starts to see.
They may draw the Rams around 2.
Right.
Which is not, they don't want that.
And there's a scenario that sets up where Philadelphia is hosting the Rams at home for the NFC Championship game again. And there's a lot of different paths. So resting those guys is a big deal. We're 17 weeks, 18 weeks into the season, and there's guys banged up, and they get a week off, and it matters. So I'm not against it. I don't think that was a bad play. Going into the 3 seed, there's a lot worse spots you could be, and you could essentially end up hosting conference
My only
championship
issue with the Philly thing was more so and I agree with the big picture. You're absolutely correct about that.
Yeah.
I was talking about short term. Like, you get number 2 seed, you're drawing the better matchup against Green Bay as opposed to San Francisco.
Right.
One thing else.
Yeah, I got comments on that. We'll get to those soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Pat? Would you have rested your starters in that situation with Philly?
Here, I'll make an argument for and against. I'd rest them for because they've been there. They were there last year. And if this team doesn't know what they need to do to get ready, then no team is going to. So from that standpoint, I would have rested them. From this standpoint, because just what you're saying, though, I think home field for the Eagles means more almost than any other team in this. The Eagles really play well at home. And if they got to go into Chicago, I'm not saying they can't go in there to win that. I just think it'd be much better for them if they were home playing Chicago, because Chicago already beat them in Philly. The odds of them beating them twice in Philadelphia are very low. So I think the Eagles would have a big distinctive advantage if they would have had that number 2 seed. But I will say this as well. I think the bottom, with the exception of Carolina, the bottom 3 seeds, 4 seeds, absolutely you could make an argument are better than the top 3 seeds in both these. So you're going to have to go on there. Someone's going to have to go on the road and win to advance. If you're a bottom seed, you're going to have Buffalo, whoever. You're going to have to go on the road at least one game, probably two, and win. But I think they can do. I think any of those teams, with the exception of Carolina, can probably do that. So we've said this for the last probably 3 months. This is as wide open a tournament as you could have in the NFL. It truly is. All these teams are legitimately can make legitimate arguments that they could make it. So, but from the Eagles' standpoint, I think they would be much better off if they. And again, we're projecting things because Eagles would have to win 2 games. Chicago would have to win 2 just to even get there. But I think the Eagles would really like to have that home field against Chicago. But if they're the team I think they are, and they're able to gel in the playoffs and do what they did last year, then they'll be able to take care of business.
I love how we're picking on Carolina and watch them win on Saturday.
Yeah, that's
they could.
They beat the Rams already a month ago, so it's not like it hasn't happened before.
It wouldn't
just
shock me.
Well, that's what Noah wanted to. Noah wanted to
hurry.
talk about that. Noah wanted to talk about the Panthers winning and watching Baker Mayfield sitting at home.
How'd you feel,
watching
buddy?
his playoff chances, go out the door. How did we feel about that, Pat? Panthers.
Well, I'm a bigger Baker Mayfield believer than Noah is. I don't know what went on with that team the last half of the season.
Yeah.
I don't. Baker obviously is there, so he's a part of it. But something else was going on there. That this isn't like Indianapolis where they lost their quarterback and some other things went wrong. The team actually was getting healthier as the year was going on, and I don't understand what was going on in terms of them losing all these games. Now they did come back and they beat the Panthers the last game, but they didn't have the destiny was not part of what the equation was for them. They had to hope that the Falcons lost, and they didn't. So it was out of their control. I don't know where the Bucs go from here, to tell you the truth. Baker played unbelievably for half the season and then didn't do what he needed to do from a leadership standpoint the second half of the season to get them wins against teams they absolutely should have beat, that this wouldn't even been a conversation. So I like Baker. I think he's a gamer. Maybe he was hurt again. I don't know. But the Bucs have a decision to make because I think they're tied to him, and this doesn't bode well. If you can't win that division with the lead that they have, then you got to start looking at the main guy, and he's the quarterback.
I wanted Tampa again just to tweak Noah, but here's the reality though. They didn't deserve to get in the playoffs. Everything Pat just said, like, unlike the Colts, where they had injuries and you had 2 really good teams that just passed them by, and it was still competitive. The Bucs got healthier as the year went on, and they had every opportunity to close the deal and did not do it. So they deserve to get in my opinion. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I would have bought a ticket to watch Baker watch the game. Just to watch the game where
Baker's house.
Where he
I
couldn't
like
at
that.
his house, and I did see that on Twitter or X or whatever you call it now that the feed was coming up and he's on his couch in his pajamas and he's watching, just shaking his head. But they put themselves in that spot where they don't control their destiny anymore. And he's that same. I put him in the same category now as like Jameis Winston, where he could go out and win that game, but at the same time there's not a consistency there of winning. Give me the guy. And I essentially have the guy, or everybody says we have the guy, who's the average quarterback who can make the plays, who's not flashy, and maybe he's not, they call him not great, whatever you want to say. I do not care. That can win the games consistently and perform at a consistent level. You know what you're getting every week. You control the ball, make some throws, make a couple plays with your feet or whatever, but not lose a game that you need to win. And he, down the stretch, Baker Mayfield did a couple plays where he threw some bad picks where he wanted to take back. I know he did. And maybe there's something to be said for not making that throw to be the hero in order to just achieve what you're trying to do and win the game. And I think that Baker kind of falls in that category.
Also, I'm kind of pissed off, too, because I have a bet with my 12-year-old son before the year started. There's some weird trend, like if the Eagles win the Super Bowl the year before and the Jaguars do this, the Jaguars make the playoffs, and the Panthers make the playoffs in the next year. And he saw it on the internet. I'm like, that's not happening. Carolina's not going to the playoffs this year. Stop. Made a bet about it.
Yeah.
Basically, if the Panthers win the playoffs, he gets icy for a whole year, once a week, no matter what. Whoa. And he won the bet, and he's been bragging all week since then.
Wow. You
damn
better make good on that.
I started. I paid part one of the bet yesterday. So
okay, we're going to keep track of this the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We are
52 ices.
And he's still bragging.
How much do they cost a piece? Like $5?
Just get him 52 at one time and get it over.
I should just do that, honestly. That's a good idea.
You just peel him off.
Then he'll die, probably, because it's too much icy at one time.
Peel him off $250 and call it a day.
So Myles Garrett set a sack record this season with 23 sacks. It's a huge achievement. We also had another achiever, Cam Little, the kicker for the Jaguars, kicked the longest in dome and outside field goals this season.
You see his dance though?
What was that? Can somebody explain that? He had something. He had like, what was he?
He was
The dance
doing
was doing?
something.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I know it's like,
Quiet, and then
hold
he's
on.
like,
And
He
then
might have started that, yeah. How do we
He's
feel
like,
about
hold
Myles
on. He's
Garrett,
like, look
Pat?
at me.
Well, again, I'm not a big Myles Garrett fan, but I will recognize the unbelievable ability of somebody to consistently beat double teams and sometimes triple teams to get this record. I will say, though, on the record itself, this looked very similar to Brett Favre just falling down.
I can see that. I can see that.
It did? You telling me that?
I can see
with
that.
5 minutes to go,
sus.
and they've contained him the whole game, and all of a sudden he gets his breath on him.
Ankle,
And
yeah.
He got a big jump though on that. He got a big jump though.
he did. No, I'm not.
Yeah, did
I'm
you
not.
see,
I'm not
he
saying.
set
But
the all-time record for get-off on a play where .2 something. Like if you told me I had to clap my hands in .23 seconds, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, no one's bad as Strahan and Favre. I'm sorry.
what are you doing? Throw it away. You know he's there. But anyway, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I think it's unbelievable that a guy can get again who's the sole focus of most offensive schemes to stop him from doing this.
Yeah.
It's a testament to his ability and his want to do this to be able to accomplish that. And I think the guy actually should get some votes for MVP this year because I think he's been that kind of a game wrecker for a team that's terrible, and he's kept him in a lot of games just because he's so dominant on the defensive line.
Well, I'm glad the record's broken because I always felt that was tainted. As a Giant fan who loves Strahan, I'm sorry that was I'm sorry Favre gave it up for him. I never liked that, honestly. Mark Gass has every right to be pissed about that, honestly. So did it look like he tanked it a little bit here? Maybe I can see your argument, but that was nowhere as bad as Favre and Strahan, honestly.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
But Myles Garrett, man, like, dude, he's my DPOY this year, Defensive Player of the Year. He was that dominant on a really bad team. He should get me votes. I totally agree with you on that. Could you imagine on a better team though? Honestly though.
Well, think about this, and to touch on that,
Yeah.
think about this for a second. The Browns are terrible. They weren't ahead by a lot where a team had to drop back and throw passes. Teams were probably just running the ball out, running the clock out. So he had limited availability to even get a sack. Start there. Not to mention, I don't know if you can mention a lot of guys on that whole entire defense that were actually guys that would put pressure that would help free him up, drawing a double team on the interior or anything. So I bet his percentage of sacks, it crushes all the records for sacks because the amount of dropbacks, I assume, against the Cleveland Browns were probably 20% less than the other teams. 540. And I'm going to guess that that's a lot lower than Strahan's was.
I got to
a
ask
lot
you.
lower.
So he's been playing what, like 7 or 8 years in the league now? You guys not talking about him all-time defensive ends, right? Because
100%.
right now he has a total of 125.5 career sacks. Is he top 10, top 5 all time? I mean, you talk about Bruce Smith, about Reggie White, obviously, Strahan's of the world, you name it. What would you put Garrett now if his career ended today?
Oh, I put him top 5, absolutely.
Really, top 5? Wow.
I mean, you named a lot of the other guys. Now, I put him at defense. I'm assuming he's more defensive end than defensive tackle.
Right.
So that you're getting difference with Joe Green and Bruce Smith there. But defensive tackle or defensive end, absolutely. He's in the conversation in the top 5, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The only thing I think with Myles is, he made the stand at the beginning of the year they want to get traded and all that. And he's one of the few guys. Generally, I believe you should stick with the team that brought that drafted you and all that stuff to some extent. You should try to make that team better. That's why they picked you. In his particular case, though, I was like, you should leave. Like this is ridiculous. You're staying with a sinking ship that's been sinking for a long time, and then they threw a lot of money at him, and he took it. And I'm just like, dude. The money ain't going to be worth it when you're done. When you're 60 years old and you're looking back and you're like, well, I set the record with them, but we won 3 games. And could you imagine him with San Francisco or the Eagles?
My God,
no.
Or no, please no.
The Bears or something?
Please no.
Eagles.
Don't do that, Pat. Don't mention
I'm just saying, like that's as a player, even it's still a team sport. You feel like you'd want to win something, and I just think he's going to be on a team that's going to stink for a long time, and he's going to retire, and he'll be an all-time great. But it'll be like Dick Butkus, like never made the playoffs, and they were just a below-average team this whole career.
I do think he loves the city of Cleveland, though. He does like it. He actually is a part owner of the Cavaliers on top of that too, also. So there's something to that. He has a foundation there as is. So I just think he wants to win. He wants the team to get better and wants to win. So
Yeah, good luck.
good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck
Sorry,
with that.
Jake.
Yeah, congratulations to Myles Garrett on that one. We don't have to talk about it. Put it on the outline just because I want to talk about the Raiders. But
congratulations, sir.
They got the
Stand
number
ovation.
one
Here we go.
overall pick. Thank you. I appreciate that, everyone. I'm looking for another Jamarcus Russell type of draft pick in this upcoming draft next year. But I'm just hoping that Tom Brady is the one and only person that gets to pick our quarterback. That would be nice. And one of the things I want to mention is attendance has dropped 0.8% this year. We have 3 teams. The Titans, negative 9.1%. The Jets, negative 5.1%. And the Browns, 3.9%. And this is a surprising one. Instead of selling out, the Jags only sell their stadium about 91% on average this year. Is there something happening with the NFL? The ticket prices? What's going on, Pat?
I think the NFL was always made for TV. I think it's been even more so over the last 5 years. If you go to a game now, especially if it's a night game, you are taking your life in your hands in a lot of these cities. These people are drunk. They're getting loaded the whole day. They're looking for fights. They don't even really care about the game. If you're wearing an opposing jersey, that's their ticket to be like, hey, you're an a-hole and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a big part of it in the NFL. Whether they care or not, you could probably run these games just on TV. You wouldn't have the atmosphere that you do with people there, but people would still watch it because of the gambling aspect and all the other stuff that goes along with the NFL. But I don't even know if it's a problem, Mike, to tell you the truth. I don't know if the NFL truly cares if they're sold out or not, because the TV contracts, the streaming, everything else is making them so much money that they could probably do these with no attendance and still do very well with it. It's a shame, though, from like a kid standpoint, and that when I was younger, going to these games was just so much fun. Like it was, you'd get all bundled up, you'd have all your Steelers stuff on and dealing with the elements and that kind of stuff. And now you go to these games and I immediately, even if it's not a Steeler game, any game, I'm looking around like, all right, this guy's drunk, so I got to keep an eye on him. And the security people there are generally older people, or they're not going to be able to really do anything. You got to wait for the cops, and they're coming from who knows where. It's going to be 10 minutes before they show up. So it's not just football. It's all live. Sports now are dealing with this, but football in particular, because I think it just lends itself. It's cold weather. You're drinking. And it's a physical game, so it's bringing out the macho in everybody. And you see all these the videos of people just cold cocking other people, and it's like
happened on Sunday night with the Steelers and Ravens game. I saw another fight that happened just recently.
It's like why am I going to subject myself to any of this? I'll sit at home in the warmth of my on my couch and drink here and not get arrested. So I think the NFL, if they want to view it as a problem, that's going to continue. Because you're throwing a lot of games now at night that, for prime time and everything. They're trying to squeeze as many games into the later windows as they can, and I don't know if there's a solution, and I don't even know if the NFL cares, to tell you the truth.
There's a lot of things happening around the world. I mean, you have inflation, you have high ticket prices, all that. But look at the teams you mentioned, though, too, also. Bottom of the barrel teams. Tennessee, of course. Who wants to go to a Tennessee game? Yeah. Or the Jets, for that matter. The Browns are a little surprising because they're actually a very loyal fan base. So I'm a little surprised the Browns are in that conversation there, too, also. But I'm going to say something right now. The NFL, for me, is 1A, 1B with me in the NBA in terms of my favorite sports. I do not enjoy going to football games at all. I don't enjoy it. That's the one sport. If you ask me, would you go to a football game, go to a baseball game? I'd rather go to a baseball game. Not even joking. I don't enjoy watching football in person. So that is a TV sport for me. You know what I mean?
So for the past 10 years since I met my wife, we've had season tickets to the Dolphins. We've gone to every game. This is the first year that we haven't. And there is a sense of relief. There is, when you go down to Miami, there isn't a strong fan base for the home team. So when you have that, where it's 60-40 or something like that, it gets a little dicey, like Pat's saying, where people are saying stuff or whatever, a little antagonistic. We went to one game. It was the Bills game, and I took my kid there or whatever. But there was concern. Like, is somebody going to say something? Am I going to have to correct somebody for saying something? And I'm not a big confrontational guy. But there
not
are
now.
So there are those elements now in some stadiums. So I may go. I'm still debating, and Pat, it sounds like you're out for Monday night. You're not going.
I'm not going.
All right. So I'm still debating. My track record in Philly, if I go to a Philadelphia playoff game, the last 3 times I went to a Philadelphia playoff game, they've won to the Super Bowl. Okay,
Yeah,
so
last year,
they've gone anytime I go to a game. I'll only go home if it's in a home game because there's a protection there. Like Pat said, you're actually on the right side. You're at 98% Philadelphia Eagles fans, and then you have 2%, and nobody's going to say a word because you have 58,000 other people to have your back. It's a little bit different when you have that atmosphere. It's not like that Miami, and maybe not in Jacksonville or other places. So yeah, there is that discomfort, and it's not. Yeah, in limited doses, I can handle it, but if it was a consistent thing, I can't see myself. Eventually, if you repeat the same thing over and over, eventually you're going to find yourself in some kind of situation where, like, okay, that went south. As far as the ticket prices go, you talked about the Jaguars. I did some research because obviously my kid's a Bills fan, and I was like, let me just see what it looks like up there in Jacksonville. Maybe the ticket prices for Jacksonville were high as I've ever seen for any wild card round ever. In Philadelphia, you could sit almost where you sit in the second section in Jacksonville. You could sit downstairs 4 rows off the field in Philadelphia. So I didn't understand the math there, and I'm trying to sort it out. Like, was it the Bills fans coming and buying tickets or Jacksonville Jaguars prices just high? I do not know. But there are some – you're priced out of that one. You're priced out of that one.
The Jags have always had attendance issues for years, though. So even when they're good.
I don't know.
So,
like, we could have went if the prices were reasonable, but they were.
To be fair to Miami, though, like Philadelphia, people move to Miami, move to Florida. People like you and I, we're not born here.
Yeah,
so
I know how that works.
it's going to be a 70-30, 60-40 situation there. Whereas in Philadelphia, it's going to be obviously 90% Eagle fans. That makes sense.
Okay,
Well,
then
good
now
thing
let's
you explained that to me.
Yeah, thanks, Ernest. Now it's time to get into each and every game from the playoffs, Week 1. Now, Saturday, we have 2 games. 4:30 game is the Los Angeles Rams. They're the 5 seed at Carolina, where the Rams go in favored by 10.5 points.
Didn't the Seattle Seahawks one year, weren't they 8-9 and they beat somebody?
The Saints.
Yeah. So don't tell me it can't happen. And the Rams are one of those teams, they look really, really good sometimes. And then other times, like Stafford looks off. And now I don't think they're going to lose this game. But it wouldn't completely shock me that Carolina keeps this close because they have 0 expectations on them. And when teams have 0 expectations, that's when they play loose and everything's fun and, we're going to shock the world. So I would take the Rams in this game. The 10.5 points scares me, though. I think Carolina might keep it a game. Maybe Los Angeles scores late and then covers it. But I think this is a game for a while. I'm gonna take Los Angeles, but with that amount of points, that's a little scary for me.
It's a lot of points. I'm taking Carolina points. Keep on the weather too, also.
I was going to say
if the weather is bad,
It is.
That's a Panthers' advantage there. They're at home. They're used to the grounds. The Rams are more of a finesse team on offense. That will limit Stafford and company. I'm picking the Rams to win the game. I'm not that silly, but if the weather is an issue, that's the crack open the door for the Panthers to steal this game. Take the Rams though. Panthers the points.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a little dicey. What I'm gathering is there's some rain and some other things. So, I mean, you want a sloppy field. You want a windy, messy, like the biggest disaster ever. I don't know if they're going to get all that, but it isn't. The weather isn't, Southern California weather over there. But, yeah, obviously as an Eagles fan, I would love to see something happen here and to upset the whole cart of the playoffs and not have to run into Stafford at some point in the playoffs. It's hard to say it's going to happen. Again, like Pat said, it can happen, though. It's 10-plus points or whatever, but these things happen. You're off for a game, and then all of a sudden some variance comes in, and you throw a touchdown, the Rams throw a touchdown, they get a holding call on the same play, gets called back, next play it's an interception going the other way. You do not know what's going to happen in these things. Yeah. I would have to take the points here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams to win this one. I honestly, I think they win big.
They cover too. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. I really do. Now moving on to the 8 p.m. game on Saturday, and that is a rivalry. That is the Packers at the Bears. The Packers go in the number 7 seed, the Bears the 2 seed, and the Packers go in favored by 1.
This is one of those lines where I'm just like, what? Why are the Packers favored in this game? Jordan Love's still dealing with injuries and the Green Bay's just looked discombobulated really ever since Micah Parsons went down, which is natural. But they just don't seem like a team on a direction of, we're focused, we're doing this. Chicago, again, like a lot of these teams, new to the game. Caleb Williams, finally coming into his own this year, but still a lot of, first times for this team. But being at home on a Saturday night in Chicago and they're not favored, that is very bizarre to me. I always defer to the odds makers because they know stuff that I guess we all don't. But man, there is no way I think Green Bay should be favored in this game. I'm taking Chicago, and unless something really wacky that I'm not seeing or somebody's injured that I don't know about, I think Chicago should win this game. Not easily, but they should win this game by more than 3 points. So I'm taking Chicago at home, and I think Ben Johnson, the guy there that makes the difference here, and he makes enough calls and figures out how to find weaknesses in Green Bay's defense and scores.
Pat, I'll tell you why they have Packers a favorite because they don't trust Chicago, and I don't either. Because what I saw on Week 18.
But do you trust Green Bay?
They have experience. They have the experience. They've been here the last couple of years in playoffs, so they've been the regular playoff team, so they've been here, and it's familiarity. They're on top of that too, also. And by the way, they played Chicago very well. You get Jordan Love back healthy-ish. We'll see. I was let down by Chicago on Week 18, even though they did secure the 2 seed because of Philadelphia did. I don't know how much Sirianni there, but to come out as fast as they did Week 18 against Detroit, was very. I was very shocked by that. I was like, really, are we doing this? Like, you guys have a chance to clinch 2 seed, take your business here. And that set launch for me right there. And then they lose the game all together. Now, granted, Philadelphia, did their job. Didn't do their job, rather, and so they got a 2 seed. But I don't trust Chicago. I just don't. And, in fact, I'm picking Green Bay to win this game because Chicago's relied a lot on comebacks and the cardiac beers thing, all that. But at what point does that end? I mean, when they played a couple weeks ago in Soldier Field, and they came back from that deficit too, also. And by the way, that was without Jordan Love for the record. He's playing this week. I know they're not healthy, but I don't know, man. I just like the experienced team here in this spot over the team that's kind of like depending on miracles to win. Give me Green Bay here.
Yeah, Jordan Love has some playoff experience. I was at the game in Philly when he ran into buzzsaw that we were last year, and he played okay, but he struggled. So maybe as the line is getting set, people are starting to look at a quarterback in that situation, a pressure situation, how to perform. If you think about Caleb Williams in his career, even prior to the NFL in big games, we have to start looking at that, and that does have some. There's something to be said for that. You look at Jalen Hurts in his big games, and I know he struggled in one, and he was tapped out by 2. But then in other spots where he had to come back and make a play, he could make all those plays. So maybe somebody's putting that on. Can the guy finish in the big spotlight? And this is it. This is where we're going to find out. So who do you trust more? You trust Love or Williams right now? I would have to go with Love probably. But you are on the road in Chicago, and they're hungry for they've been fighting for this thing for years, and now they're in the mix again, and the coach is a pretty good coach, and I know this is as big. This is Philly, New York all over again in this division.
Yes, it
is wild the conflict these teams have. This could go either way. I would like to say I want Green Bay, but I think Chicago should have enough to pull this thing off by being at home.
I'm taking the Bears. I like them at home. If Micah Parsons was in the game, it would be a different story, but I'm taking the Bears. Now moving on to Sunday games, the 1 o'clock game. The number 6 seed Buffalo Bills at the number 3 seed Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills go in favored by 1.
I think if Buffalo wins this game, they get to the Super Bowl. This is going to be a tough game for them.
Yep.
And if they can get through this hurdle, Jacksonville's a really good team, playing really well. I think they won 6 in a row or something like that. Yeah. The quarterback finally coming into his own. Maybe he's got some confidence, but this is a big ask for Jacksonville, even though they're at home. You got the one team really from the last 5 years that's been very consistent, getting in the playoffs. They can't get over the hump with Kansas City. No Kansas City this year. So unless Buffalo sort of gets nervous, it's like, oh, my God, we're probably the favorites, even though we're the 6th seed or whatever they are. If you look at the grand scheme of things, they've got the most experience going into these playoffs, and they got probably the best quarterback going into the playoffs. I got to figure Buffalo finds a way to do it here. If they lose this game, I said this last year, I don't know where they go from here because they put so much into last year and they didn't do it. But truly this year, if they don't do it this year and there's no Patrick Mahomes and there's no Lamar Jackson, where do they go from this at this point? So I think Buffalo wins because they have to win.
Buffalo should win. I mean,
they should win.
You have the best quarterback in the league right now in Josh Allen. I just don't trust that team around them. I mean, you have the leading rusher in the NFL also in James Cook. But outside of that, they're kind of hit or miss. And to me, like this is the easiest road Buffalo is going to face a Super Bowl in this era. Like, no Mahomes, no Lamar. I mean, all these teams are flawed. But I'm watching the Jaguars every week now. I'm buying in. I'm like, this is a really good team. This is a very good football team. And that's the key word. Team. Teams win championships, not players. Give me Jaguars.
Buffalo scores a lot of points against bad defenses, and Jaguars aren't in the top of defenses. Some of these games I'm looking at, 26-7 they won, 39-34 they win, 35-31, 23-20. They lose to the Eagles 13-12, a good defense. They lost to Houston 23-19. This isn't a good defense in Jacksonville. It's not. So if you're getting into a boat race with Jacksonville and you're Buffalo, I don't know how you stop the when momentum happens for Josh Allen, he starts doing what he does. I don't know how you stop that.
Right.
Buffalo only needs to make a couple plays to do that. I don't know if this is going to be whatever the over is. This is going to be the over. They're going to be putting up some points. I don't think they could keep up with Buffalo, and I think Buffalo wins in this spot.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl, and I'm going to stick with them here.
I will say real quick, though, if the Bills lose this game also, too, McDermott's gone. Add him to the list.
Well, it's a big one. Now we're going to move on to the 4:30 game. That is San Fran at Philly. San Fran's the 6 seed. Philly's the 3 seed, and Philly is favored by 4.5.
I think this is going to be the game of the weekend. San Fran, I don't know what was going on with them last week with Seattle. They were my going into the playoffs with the head of steam and everything else. Now they're getting healthy. I think Kittle's going to play in this game. This is a really conflicting game for me because I think San Francisco is the best team, notwithstanding last week, going into the playoffs. But the Eagles, to me, are the defending champion, and it's very, very hard to beat the defending champion. I'm still going to go with San Fran here. I think they find a way to do this because they're good on the road, and I hate going against because I've been with the Eagles the whole year, but.
Give it to him, Pat.
I gotta go with who I think's going to win.
He's a show.
Here's the problem with San Francisco. Their defense stinks now.
I
don't even notice that. They really stink.
I notice it.
I'm just saying, they stink now. And God bless Brock Purdy. Here's the injury that's really concerning more than anything else. Trent Williams is doubtful this game, too, also. That's huge. If he can't play, then they have no shot to win this game. That's probably their best player on the whole roster. I like the Eagles here. I think the Eagles are actually quietly playing, notwithstanding last week's game. Tanner McKee, of course. They are quietly playing better football this last month, actually. And they had a harder schedule in the league, in my opinion, this year. They're kind of – it's weird. They're Super Bowl champions, and they're kind of under the radar because everybody's talking about Seattle, everybody's talking about San Francisco, everybody's talking about the Rams and all that.
Right.
The Eagles are –
Preach it, Earnest.
Guys, I hate the Eagles. They're still champs. Eagles win.
Ernest is asking for time out.
Right.
For
no, I'm just saying, man. I see what I see, man. I watch football. I know what I'm seeing.
The Eagles have inconsistency on offense. We'll all agree that the Eagles' defense is pretty good.
Yes.
Okay? All right. So, last 4 games for San Francisco, they won 37-24 against Tennessee, who has a 21st ranked defense. They won 48-27. Against Indy, who has a 23rd ranked defense. They won 42-38 against Chicago, who has the 29th worst scoring defense. And then they lost to Seattle 13-3, who has the 6th best scoring defense, which Philly is like 2, I think, or 3 in scoring defense. The matchup for this of defense versus offense and offense versus defense, is strength versus weakness, is clearly slanted in Philadelphia's favor. You tack on the point that they're home. Philly plays pretty good at home, like we said, and San Fran coming in there, and they're banged up. This could be another. Last time they went in there, they were all excited too, and then they got the doors blown off.
Well, to be fair, they didn't have a quarterback in that game, though.
Yeah, but they don't have a quarterback because, the Eagles had – our defense is – how about this? The last time they did that and that happened, the defense wasn't nearly this good. This defense is way better than that defense. This is the best defense I've seen in Philadelphia. I would even put it ahead of the Super Bowl run that we made. This is going to be a big deal. We're at full strength. This is going to be a blowout of epic proportions.
I think so.
Give me Philly in this one.
Yeah,
give me Philly.
I love the Eagles' defense. I think they do a great job. That's why I'm taking the Niners to win.
Oh, you're a jerk. Such a jerk.
So
I hate
now we
this
move
show.
on.
I hate
Now we
this
move
show.
on to 8 p.m.
I
The
hate this show.
7-seed Chargers versus the 2-seed Patriots. Patriots favored by 4.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this game either. I mean, I go back to Phillip Rivers versus Tom Brady. I'm like, the Patriots are going to blow them out, but I keep forgetting that was 10 years ago. So I don't know. Again, it's new chartered territory for the Patriots. Like, yeah, Drake May looks great, and Vrabel's done a great job and all that. But again, this is the first time in the playoffs with this crew. So what are they going to do? Jim Harbaugh usually has guys ready to play in the playoffs, but the Chargers have been very inconsistent for me. I really thought they were going to take a huge step forward this year, and to some extent I guess they did, but not as big as I thought. I thought Herbert and the receivers and the running back, and then I know that they got a lot of injuries and lost their offensive line guys early and stuff like that. I'm going to take New England here, but I'm just because of Harbaugh, I think the Chargers give them a game. But if it was in Los Angeles, maybe I'd give them the chance to win. But being in New England, the elements and all that, traveling cross country, I think New England finds a way to win.
This is easily the hardest game to pick of the 6, because the Chargers, I think, have a better roster in New England, a more experienced roster, probably slightly better coach and all that, better quarterback in my opinion still, even though Drake May had a great year. But Herbert's probably hurt, and the Chargers' offensive line has been terrible the last couple weeks on top of that too also. So. And the Pats are surging on top of that. It's a lot of weird dynamics here. Like, if these teams were, regardless of where the game is being played, if these teams are playing equal footing, I might pick the Chargers here. But because it's in Foxborough, and because the injuries on the Chargers side, and Herbert's still kind of compromised also on top of that, I got to go with the hotter team and not getting Patriots. But like I said, the Chargers, if they win this game, I won't be shocked. But they got to overcome some injuries here too also. And a bad O-line on top of that.
If you remember, Herbert's last playoff game was an absolute disaster. I think he had 4 picks or 5
against the Texans last week.
Yeah, so until he shows me, and I want to be a fan, and I want him to do well, and I want the Chargers to win this game, but I can't. Like, when you start showing that track record of performing like that, I don't know. If you look in the history of the NFL, it'd be interesting to see how many quarterbacks in their NFL in their first playoff game threw 4 interceptions, but then turned out to be a great quarterback down the stretch. I don't know how often that happens, because it was a pretty big epic meltdown by him last time, and I think they were favored in that game. And I'm a little concerned with this one as well. So until you show me something different in Herbert, I'm gonna have to go with New England here.
Yeah, I'm taking New England at home again, favored by 4. And last but not least, Monday night's 8 p.m. game.
Here we go.
The 5-seed Houston Texans, the 4-seed Pittsburgh Steelers. Houston goes in favored by 3.
Well, I think the big thing is going to be the first quarter of this game. Steelers in the last five playoff games that they've had have been outscored 75-0 in the first quarter.
What?
So, yeah, look that stat up. So they've been blown out pretty much right off the bat in their playoff games, the last 5 or 6 of them. They have not scored more than 7 points in the first quarter in 67 straight games. So they do not do well in the first quarter. So if they can get through the first quarter and it's 0-0, I give the Steelers a chance in this game, notwithstanding the fact that the kicker's all of a sudden losing it a little bit, and this should be a field goal type game. Whatever the over-under is, I would take the under, number one. And if the offensive line of the Steelers, which is getting better, they're not at all-pro level yet, but they're getting better, can somehow keep Aaron Rodgers upright and less than 3 sacks with that dynamic pass rush that Houston has, I think the Steelers have a chance. Now, they can't go in there and throw the dink-and-dunk passes and the usual crap. They've got to try and get it down the middle to Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and get that middle loosened up a little bit, and that'll help the running game, which I do think the Steelers have a very much better running game than Houston does. But this should be a low-scoring slugfest. But if Houston jumps on them early, I don't think they will, but if they do, this could be a long night for Pittsburgh. I'm going to take the Steelers at home in a very low-scoring game, something like 13-10 type of a game. If it's a different type of game than that, if it's more of a high-scoring game, then Houston's probably going to win.
So for transparency's sake here, the Texans are my pick to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. Okay, this for transparency's sake.
Okay.
However, there's some weird optics here going on with this game. Number one, it's in Pittsburgh again. Number two, it's on Monday Night Football, and we know the stats on that one. Mike Thomas never lost on Monday Night Football. The Steelers has lost on Monday Night Football since 1991. I mean, since Bobby Brister was the quarterback. Crazy. Yeah. So there's some weird, stuff here. Like, as you mentioned, this says team of destiny kind of thing going on. So I'm going to pick Houston to win the game, obviously. However, people are saying the Steelers are dead no matter what. I don't know about that. I just think that sometimes when the playoffs ratchet up, you have guys like Aaron Rodgers who's been there before. That roster, they all been there before. Mike Tomlin, he hasn't won a playoff game in a while. He's due for a playoff win at some point. So even though I'm picking Houston to win the game just because of my pick to go to the Super Bowl, I would not be shocked if Tuesday morning I'm sitting here and the Steelers are still alive and probably going to Denver, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Most likely. We'll see.
All right, I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to channel my Catholic school education. So they have the priests for the regular season. They have the priests come out and bless the field, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is next level. All right, so we're going to bring out the bishop. You bring the bishop out, whatever the local bishop is there. He blesses the field for this one. And then as you advance, next round, archbishop, then the cardinal. If you make the Super Bowl, you bring the pope out, and he blesses the field.
Probably.
And it's dunzo. Like the whole thing, you win the whole thing, and God looks down on Pittsburgh Steelers, and they win this whole thing. So really simple.
I'm going to say if we have God on our side,
Yeah.
we should win.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb. If God cares
Right.
about who wins
Yeah.
this game,
I wonder if Vegas
we should
knows.
win.
We're going to see. So, God, if you hear us right now, now's the time.
And you're a Steeler fan?
Yeah.
You got to
Make it happen.
You got to show us now.
So what's the theme now? You guys win the 7th Super Bowl. What is it? Like, you have one for the thumb already. You tell you one for the other index finger, one for the – how's that work now?
One for the toe.
Yeah, I don't know. They were probably thinking of some catchy thing and they couldn't figure one for the middle finger.
I'm just saying, there's some weird optics in this game. I'm just saying, take a win this game, bro. I'm picking Houston, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, so bring in the bishop, and I go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Then he adds that, too, on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking our Steelers at home. I'm a big Steeler fan now.
Homer.
I've been for a while now, and I think the Steelers are going to win this one, and I think they're going to shock a lot of teams in the playoffs. And those were our picks. We're going to run down those quick picks a little bit later, but let's talk about Hard Rock Bet. We have a marketing partnership with them, and they've got a great offer, and there's no better time to do it. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets, and all you have to do is make it a deposit of $10, place a cash wager of $5 or more. You win that first bet, you're going to receive $150 in bonus bets as 6 separate $25 bonus bets. You can't beat it. Get your phone out, go over that QR code, and sign up today. And that's offered by Seminole Tribe of Florida. Got to be 21 plus and physically present in Florida to wager. Terms and conditions apply. If you're concerned about gambling, call 1-833-PLAY-WISE. That's the new number, 833-PLAY-WISE. Let's talk real fast about our fantasy football results. We didn't get to mention it on the show last week. My brother, Mr. Crinkle, ended up beating Fire Tomlin, which was John Bunner.
8-6, and it
Yeah.
wins the see. Anything can happen.
Mediocrity, Mike. Mediocrity.
Shouldn't even have been in it. Actually ended up in the final. I finished third in the league. I beat Joey 140-something to 120-something. But congratulations to Matt Jameson. He's the big fantasy winner, and congratulations to Fire Tomlin, which is John Bunner, as a runner-up.
Good second place, John Bunner.
Yeah.
Couldn't
First
happen.
loser.
Congratulations, couldn't happen in a nicer guy.
Here we go. Okay, now let's talk about some college football happenings. I'm sure
This
Pat
is wild.
was very happy over the weekend. When we talked on the show last week, almost all the teams that he was hoping would lose did. You had number 10 Miami defeating Ohio State. You had Oregon beating Texas Tech, shutting them out 23-0.
That was a shocker.
Indiana beat Alabama 38-3, and Ole Miss outlasted Georgia 39-34. So you have the Fiesta Bowl coming up. That's tomorrow. That is Ole Miss versus Miami in Arizona, and then you have the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which is the 9th, and that's Indiana versus Oregon, and that's in Atlanta, Georgia. How do we feel after last week?
Well, it is. I'm just glad that Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. It's just recycle. It's the same thing all the time. So at least these are different teams to some extent. Now, I wouldn't want to see Oregon and Miami. Nothing against those two teams, but I just don't. They don't give me the willies to like I want to watch that game. So I'm hoping it's Indiana and Ole Miss. Number one, because I like Indiana. The coach is from Pittsburgh, and they just an unbelievable story that they've come from nowhere to be this powerhouse. But I also like Ole Miss because I want them to win, so that Lane Kiffin is sitting at home like wondering what he did. So I if you get that game, then for me I can't lose. I'm hoping that happens. I do think Miami's a pretty good team. I think they're probably going to give Ole Miss a really good game. It's probably tougher than people think it's going to be. But Indiana, they've already beaten Oregon. I think they're going to beat them again. So I think Indiana is definitely going to get in. Ole Miss is 50-50, so we'll have to see. But That should be a really good game. Miami and Ole Miss should be a good game.
So Lane Kiffin's made $750 million in these 2 wins. He made $250,000 when they beat the first team, and then they made $500,000 when they just beat Georgia. Crazy. So that will make him feel a little better, for not being able to coach these games. But I told you guys on the show 2 weeks ago, the winner of Ohio State Miami is winning the Natty. So you ready to know I'm going on that one. But Indiana's tough, man. Obviously the story of the year, probably a story of the decade, in my opinion, because Indiana being this good. They were good last year, but then they fizzled out late in the year against Ohio State, and that's whatever. But the fact they're this dominant now, and then I still don't know if the win against Bama was more about Bama being that bad or Indiana being that good, because Bama was not that good this year, by their standards anyway. So we'll see, but I think Miami is going to beat Ole Miss. I think they got the better matchup between Miami. I'm glad you're playing Ole Miss as opposed to Georgia. Because if Georgia plays Miami, maybe I'm feeling different about that matchup. But I think Miami takes this one. I think what's the one? Indiana against Oregon. Indiana, yeah, Oregon. Please, I don't believe in Oregon this late in the year. By January, Oregon will fizzle out. So give me Indiana.
Yeah, the college playoffs, wasn't Miami almost shut out, right? They almost didn't even get in, or were they?
Yeah,
okay. So you get in, and now you're in the semis, and you're turning heads. This goes to show you how broken it was before we had a playoff system. Some of the teams that could have been, are arguably the best team in the nation, didn't have a chance to even go on the field and compete. It was just wild how they did that. But now you have the playoffs, and now you have 4 different teams essentially that, if you were doing it any other way, probably wouldn't have a chance to be here and competing for a national title. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Does Lane get a ring if they finish and win?
If he's getting money, might as well get a ring too.
What a weird ring that one is. Just maybe put it up for auction. I don't know what you do with that thing. But, I'd like to see – I mean, I don't know if Ole Miss has the speed. Miami's known for speed. It's a fast – I mean, that team's always fast. They're always going to have the fastest players on the field. Ohio State was always right there, and they beat them in relative easy fashion, which was shocking in my opinion. And I think at some point you're rolling along like this. Miami is a scary team. Yeah, I like Miami.
As long as Carson Beck's not throwing picks, though.
Yeah.
Carson Beck has to play clean.
I'm taking Ole Miss and Indiana. That's what my national championship. I can't wait for that. And remember, the national championship is in Miami too, so that should be interesting. If Miami,
you spoiled the party. Good job.
Yep.
At that stage,
yep.
Like
another. Yeah. Here's one thing I wanted to talk about just for Pat. The Winter Classic just happened a few days ago. The Panthers. Against, what is it, the Rangers?
My team.
The Rangers.
My
the
team.
Rangers, trolloped the Panthers in this. I saw a lot of people that didn't like the way that Miami did this Winter Classic and didn't like the fact that it was in Miami at all. How did we feel about the Winter Classic?
The one thing I went to the game. The one thing I will tell you is from an atmosphere in terms of, people are just like, it wasn't in the cold and all that. No. I'm 61 years old. I won it in basically air conditioning, which is what that was. So you could sit there in some kind of comfort, not bundled up to a game that you can't see. So here's my list of criticisms. The parking was ridiculous. I know the Marlins aren't used to having 35,000 people in there, but for God's sakes, I got told by 2 different cops to go 2 different places, and it almost, even though the NHL thankfully didn't start the game on time, which they should. That's another grief.
Whoa.
They were
late?
No, it started at 8:25.
Oh, wow.
So we get in there. And we're sitting at home plate, and they've got these tickets cost $900.
Home plate.
Wow. And the actual rink is basically between center field and sort of the beginning part of the infield. So it's a good 60 to 70 yards away. Wow. I couldn't see anything, and it's elevated. So you could only see the torsos of the guys playing. You couldn't. Now, if the NHL was smart, they would have at least had a plexiglass the whole way around so you could kind of see what was going on. So you could only see the torsos. I'd say out of the 35,000 people that were there, 32,000 of them were there because it was a party. It was an actual party with a hockey game going on.
Yes.
The people were taking pictures. They were not watching the game at all. They were taking pictures. They were eating all the crazy food that they had there. Because we're in Miami, they feel like we have to have enchiladas and all this. I'm like, can we just have hot dogs? I mean, why do we have to go and pretend like we're a Latin American country, even though maybe it is? But they had 2 two hockey games going on, Mike. They had a walking, where the kids were just in sneakers on one end in left field, and then in right field they had an actual pond, with ice skates. So they had kids playing this while the game's going on, and they had a concert going on in dead center field while the game's going on. I'm like, what are we? People, again, are up in the aisles taking pictures while the game's going on. Yeah. The best thing about hockey to me, the best thing about going to live hockey, and I still think it's the best live game to go to.
I agree.
When the team scores, home or away, but mainly home, there's a split second when the puck goes in the net and it's quiet. For a split second, you're watching it, and it goes in, and then a second later, everybody erupts. And you're like, that's the best part. For this game, I'd say it was a good solid 10 seconds before people knew somebody scored. They scored.
Oh, my God.
They're walking around, and the players are like, oh, my God, they scored. Like, hey. The Panthers didn't even show up. They didn't play the first two periods at all. They might have had 6 shots on goal. It was worse than an exhibition game. You could tell they just were not into it at all. I give the credit to the Rangers. At least they scored. This was one of the worst hockey games I've ever seen. I can't believe the NHL allows their product to be bastardized. Like, would you put an NFL game like, hey, for old time's sake, because they used to play old NFL games on sandlots, we're going to go put an NFL game on some sandlot and have, 40,000 people, that can't watch it. I'm like, why are you doing? I know it's one game, and I sound like get off my lawn, old man. But this was an absolutely horrendous experience, except for the nice weather. That part was good. I would not have stayed for 5 minutes if I was freezing my butt off up north somewhere to watch this. My son's friend went to the game, and he never goes to any hockey games. He brought his girlfriend, and I quickly told him, I said, Anthony, text your guy and ask him because he was a section over from us. I'm like, what did he think of the game? Because after the game, by the way, I'm listening to the Panthers post game, and the announcer's like, what a great experience, even though the Panthers didn't win. Just so nice to have it. I'm like, what? What have you got? So Anthony's friend's like, he hated it. He couldn't believe he got ripped off for $900 to see something he couldn't even see. He's like, he hated it. He's never going to another hockey game. I'm like, so NHL, I don't know. You're going to keep doing. You're doing one in Tampa, like in another couple of weeks. Yeah, they're doing another game in the football stadium there. I'm like, enough. If you want to have one game, and put it up north, fine. But please, no more of the. The product is a good product, but keep it in an arena where we can at least see what's going on. You would have been better off being in the upper deck of right field to have a chance to even see what was happening in that game. It was beyond bad. So that's my rant with the Winter Classic.
It makes sense that our own Matt, superfan, was ornery the next day because he went to the game too also. He was PO'd. The experience was bad. He was surrounded around Rangers fans, and they lost, and the experience was really bad. So you're saying something that a lot of people are saying went to the game.
I'm saying even if the Panthers would have won that game, it was horrible. It was just you couldn't see anything.
I mean, I'm not mad about the result. Obviously, my team won, but same time, I've heard horror stories about that experience.
Yeah, there's a cultural problem in Miami. I'm gonna tag on to what Pat said. There's people out there taking pictures and doing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I have gone to a show in Miami, and it's similar to these concerts or whatever, and all anybody cares about down there is their social media and taking pictures. I've seen it where they turn on these lights. They literally bring a setup where their friends are holding lights and taking pictures because in Miami it's so important to hit that status. It's crazy. They don't care about the product. They do not care about it. They're there to put it on their Insta and all their social media to say they were there, and I get you, Pat, with that they do not care.
Here's another thing, very, very minor, but again, just irks me. So you got Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov. They're 2 star players who are injured. They're out. They come out at one point, like a stoppage of play. They come out with their Miami Vice suits on, like Crockett and Tubbs, and they're carrying the Stanley Cup. I'm like, guys, it's the new season. That old season's over. You don't carry the effing Stanley Cup in the middle of a season. Are you out of your minds? I'm like, and they're like walking around.
Times are changing.
I'm like, oh my God, this is so Bush League. It's like laughably bad.
To your point, I went to a show like a couple weeks ago at the Hard Rock, and I love the venue. Yeah, but it was Creed and Seven Dust. I went for Seven Dust, by the way. Yeah. The crowd was lame.
No,
the crowd was lame.
They record the whole show or whatever.
Yeah.
Watch the damn product on the
my wife and I are here yelling and singing all the songs and like headbanging and stuff, and everybody's like sitting there dude, really? What are you doing here,
Live
bro?
in the
Like, get out of
moment.
here. Yeah.
Enjoy the game.
I'm really
Live
glad
in
I
the
put
moment.
that on the outline for
Me
this
too.
week.
Yeah.
Okay,
that was a
now
good
let's
one.
talk about our NFL quick picks for this week. We're going to run through these really quick.
All right.
Okay, Saturday's games. We have the Rams at the Panthers. Rams favored by 10.5.
I'm taking the Rams, but this could be a game.
Rams definitely win the game. Panthers on the points, though. Keep an eye on the weather, though, because if that weather's getting a little nasty, Carolina has a chance to steal one.
Yeah, I'll take the Rams.
I'm taking the Rams to win big. Now the Saturday night game, Green Bay at Chicago. Green Bay favored by 1.
I'm not a not big believer in Green Bay here in Chicago. I think Chicago wins this one.
I'm soft on Chicago right now, man. That Week 18 loss was very discouraging. Green Bay's getting a little bit healthier now. I trust the Packers. They have the experience. Give me the Packers.
Yeah, Soldier Field. In this time of year, it's been a while. I'll take Chicago.
The Bears. Now the Sunday games, the 1 o'clock game. Bills at Jaguars. Bills favored by 1.
Bills simply have to win. Have to. So I'm taking the Bills.
Bills better win when McDermott's gone. And I trust Josh Allen. I trust James Cook. I don't trust the rest of the team. Give me the Jaguars red hot.
Yeah, I trust Josh Allen. Super.
The Bills. Now we're moving on to the 4:30 game, and that's San Fran at Philadelphia. Philly favored by 4.5.
I know Noah don't like this. I don't know why. I just think San Fran's gonna. I hate San Francisco, by the way. I don't want. They're the one team I don't want to see win anything. But
Same.
I'm taking them.
Same. I hate the Niners too, man. But the Eagles are getting healthier. They're playing better football right now. The Niners are. Trent Williams might miss the game too. Also, this is not even a close game. Give me the Eagles.
Hey, give me the Eagles, too.
Okay, well, if you take the Eagles, I'll take the Niners then. I think the front row's right on this one. Now
you're
we're
right.
moving on to the
I
8
hope I'm
p.m.
wrong.
8 p.m. game.
Me too.
Chargers at Patriots. The Patriots favored by 4.
I don't have a real feel for this because both these teams have issues, and New England being new to this, I'm going to take New England here, but it's not a confident pick.
The Chargers a little bit healthier. Herbert's a little bit healthier. I might pick him here, but the O-line's been bad. Herbert's banged up still. The Pats are playing good football at the right time. It's in Foxborough. Give me the Patriots, man.
Yeah, I'm going to go with New England here until Herbert proves me different.
Yep, taking the Patriots at home now. Monday night's matchup: Texans, Steelers. Texans favored by 3.
That Tomlin magic continues. I'm taking Pittsburgh at home.
I'm picking Houston in my Super Bowl pick to go to the Super Bowl anyway, but there's some weird optics around this Steeler team right now.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised they win this game, but I'll take Houston.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. Taking the Steelers at home.
Now they just lost.
Yep, and that's our quick picks for the first week of the playoffs.
Super wild card weekend.
Now let's talk about our sports betting picks of the week. I picked a little bet for Saturday in the early game. Stafford over 264.5 yards. Puka over 90.5 yards. McMillan over 4.5 receptions. And Dowdle an anytime touchdown. That's plus 826. $25 will win you $231. Any sports bets for the weekend, Pat?
Yeah, if you've been following, and I know hockey's tough to bet, but if you've been following the Panthers, they have been going in the tank. They had a great game against Colorado after that debacle at the Winter Classic, but prior to that, they're in some kind of a funk, and then they got creamed last night by Toronto on the road. They got to play Montreal, I think, tomorrow. Bet everything you got on Montreal. The Panthers don't look right, and I'm close to making one of my picks where I say they don't make the playoffs. I'm not going to do that yet, but it's getting close.
Really?
Yeah, they don't look good. They don't.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'll keep NFL here. Panthers plus 10.5, Packers -1, the Jags +1, and the Eagles -4.5. Bet 25 and make $325.
Yeah, the best value this week, you have a team at home in the playoffs who they did win enough to get in the playoffs, and the money line is going to be crazy. Take Carolina in the money line.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like those. Now let's talk about everything going on here at PBKC, including those January high hands. We got the big drawing that's coming up on the 31st, and that's high hands every 15 minutes from 9 a.m. to midnight, and $15,000 cash giveaway. Don't forget about those January progressive high hand weekends with the $100,000 giveaway. Let's talk about the big game party. That's the place to be. Nobody knows right now who's going to be in the big game February 8th, but we know the best place to watch it, and that is right here at the Paddock. $45 all-you-could-eat buffet. Bucket of beer free with $25 or more. Bet place day of at PBKC with the Hard Rock Bet app. For more information, go to our website at pbkennelclub.com. And we are just one day away. Starting tomorrow is the January 100K, the 8th through 11th. That is the best tournament in all of South Florida with the best structures. You got great players. We can't wait for that. It's starting tomorrow, and that's the 8th through 11th, the $100,000 Monster Multi-Flight for January. So what are your final thoughts for the week, Pat? What are we looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I don't think this is a big going out on a limb prediction, but I'm going to say the 2 Super Bowl representatives come out of this weekend. I don't think the top seeds make it. I think whoever wins in the AFC and the NFC this weekend, one of those teams ends up going, both of them go to the Super Bowl, and we might end up with like 2 5 seeds in the Super Bowl this year.
Was your prediction Bills-Niners?
It was Bills, Niners.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, playoffs are here. I'm excited. Can't wait. I just can't wait. I mean, it's pretty it writes itself pretty much this weekend.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff this weekend. Blake's coming in from Kansas City to come visit.
How's that going?
First
time? How's that rebuild going?
First time. So, Blake, yeah, you and me are going to square off. I mean, you got a lot of time on your hands because Kansas City's no good at football this year, so that's fine. Maybe we could go watch the Eagles or the Bills game while you come to visit. But, yeah, this is where it gets exciting, and I'm sure, I mean, Pat's been through this a lot longer than I have with his Steelers being so good at football for a long time. But, yeah, it gets a little exciting this time of year where, okay, you have a chance, at maybe a repeat Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm going to be honed in, and I'm still debating whether to go up there or not and actually see the game. I don't have it is a big disappointment if you go and you travel and you lose and
But you haven't sensed that.
Will you be moody?
I haven't sensed that yet. So I'm looking forward to the Eagles.
How moody will you be if they lose that game on the show next week?
He's not going to be on the show next week.
I will be here.
Go Niners.
Well, all that matters to me. I have no teams. And so all I care about is everybody has fun.
That's all that matters.
We're going to catch you next week right here on PBKC Picks at Palm Beach Kennel Club. Have a great week, everybody.
PBKC is your entertainment destination for poker, table games, OTB, Paddock live events, and exceptional eats. The Paddock Restaurant is perfect for meetings, corporate functions, parties, fundraising, and more. Call 561-683-2222, extension 199, and book your next event today.
I've never really gone to any other place.
The Big Game Party is back in the Paddock Restaurant on February 8th. With a $45 all-you-can-eat buffet, beer bucket specials with over 140 HD TVs and 3 huge screens. This is how the big game was meant to be. For more information, go to pbkennelclub.com.